Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Sunday evening frequency meditation. It's been a pretty busy week. We have a new president of the United States, and everybody perceives that outcome in a different way. What happens is when such an event like this, like a political situation that could affect the whole world, possibly, is that it creates different timelines for people. What does a timeline mean? It means when something triggers you, or has triggered you in the past, for instance, is that your reality, you reside in a different reality than perhaps some other people as well. So when something like this happens at the President of the United States, which there's a lot of controversy over on the wisdom of either candidates, and then when one gets into office, it creates fear. One's environment is insecure. And as a result of that, we can go into a projection mode, a future moment in time, a different timeline. There is something like called the Mandela Effect, for instance, Nelson Mandela. There are different timelines with people. Some people remember Nelson Mandela as being in jail and passing away in jail, where others have a very vivid memory of him getting out of jail and yet again becoming the president, which is true. Another example is a Walt Disney Tinkerbell, where Tinkerbell at the beginning of every movie goes around the castle and taps a wand and all the stardust comes out. That never happened. You can look in the internet, you can Google it, it never happened. But clearly for myself, that is my memory, and many of the people in the same timeline that I was in, that is their memory. Another is Jiffy Peanut Butter. I remember very clearly, and I can still see it in my head today, the label saying Jiffy Peanut Butter. In fact, Jif has never produced a peanut butter called Jiffy. Yet in my mind, my experience, my reality, the timeline I was in, I recall it that way. So it's really fascinating when you get into timelines because, as I mentioned, everything I do is about helping you take back control with the work we do at Space-Time. It's about no matter what's happening in our outside environment, we can always take control and navigate to a timeline, a reality that serves us best. So let's go into a meditation, explore this whole concept. It's a heavy one for people. It's very difficult for people's minds to get around it. So what I do is that I really just open up the conversation between you and your timeless self. So we're starting the conversation, and then you, with your timeless self, will explore it more, and that's where more details will come in for you. So let's just go into a meditation, explore this concept of timelines, different realities. What is a truth? What is your truth? What is my truth? And then also be able to take back control. So whenever anything happens in our outer environment, such as an election, climate change, economic turndown, or great news as well, we always are centered in our body, deciding, navigating on what reality we're going to curate here. That is true empowerment. So with that, sit back and let's go into a meditation. So as we get situated into our body, just noting ourselves in our body, noticing where your skin stops, and then all of your inner workings within that space. And taking a deep breath in to a count of 4. Hold that breath to a count of 4. And then exhale through the mouth to a count of 4. In the future, when I say take a breath, you just do it to your own count. But just be aware of you breathing and these 3 movements. And another breath in. Just bringing everyone in to a shared timeline. It makes it more efficient so you can perceive, digest this knowledge with more precision. So as we take another breath in and coming into your spine, the entirety of your spine, noticing the 33 vertebrae, and just explore this in as much detail as possible. So while you do that, we can just come into this space. I can come into this space, into a different realm, a clearer realm. And it's from here where we access these higher definitions. And noticing the spaces between the vertebrae. As mentioned in the introduction, the Mandela Effect. How can it be that people have different memories of situations? And you share that memory, that experience with other people. And yet then there's other people who have a completely different memory. And it's not that it's a random or a many different memories. As the examples, Nelson Mandela, there is a group of people who believe he passed away in prison. And there is a group of people who believe he was let out of prison and then went on to becoming the president. So which one is true? As we take a breath in, again, coming back to our spine, bringing you in a more precise place in space and time. What happens is that when we have trauma, it can be from a past lifetime or it can be in our early years or later years. Trauma doesn't mean it has to be a sensational act, such as a murder or rape or anything along those lines. Trauma simply means that you cannot reconcile with your spirit an event. And what that does, it stops you in time, or it slows you down in time, or perhaps it speeds you up in time, depending on the event, altering your relationship with the ultimate timeline as we breathe in. I tune into nature. I always have. I've always had a relationship, a conscious relationship with nature. It has pulled me into its timeline. I have gone there without me knowing it. That is why I'm going into nature, because I have a desire to be pulled into a more precise timeline in space and time as we breathe in. So we really only want to be in one timeline. When we're in multiple timelines, we are fragmenting ourselves. It takes an incredible amount of energy. So it makes us here in this density not so efficient. As we breathe in, and let's breathe in now from the core of the earth. These frequencies in the core of the earth that have been purified through gravity, billions of years. Perfect alignment. Perfect present moment, perfect timeline. So as we breathe in these frequencies, we absorb them throughout ourselves and state that we wish to start to synchronize in this ultimate timeline, universal time, which ripples to planetary time, which ripples to nature's time. And as we are nature, we have access to this. So taking another deep breath in. you have made of your keys on a table and then came back to it and they're not there. The sock that goes missing in the drawer. Those are all timelines. We were in one timeline when we did something, and then we shifted into another timeline, another reality. And it's very real, as those examples I gave you about Disney, with Tinkerbell, Nelson Mandela, Jeff, there's so many. But if you, as you breathe in, and as you ask your timeless self, how can I be more centered? How can I be in a more optimal timeline, in synchronicity with the timeline of our origin? We can start to observe how different events, people, places, things triggers us and we shift into less efficient places in space and time. Many spend their whole lifetime on this journey trying to understand why the universe works that way. Why does this happen to us? But I got that answer pretty early on in my journey, that the questions will never end. Even if we get an answer to this, another question will appear. And so I made the decision, as we breathe in, that I'm really not interested, not to say I'm not curious, but I'm really not interested in funneling my attention into the whys. I've always been more interested in understanding how to create myself more efficiently here, how to be in a better position with my timeless self, how to have a clear, conscious connection with my timeless self. The mechanics. I don't need to know why it is. And so as we take a breath in and we come into our spine, just noticing what vertebrae you are looking at, reviewing right now, visualizing. I have found through the journey of focusing more on the how, it has led me more into the present moment. To understanding even that I don't need to know how, or it will always come to me in the present moment on what I need to do. So all I really need to do, all that I'm accountable for is to keep in the present moment, keep in my body. As I receive, it comes to me, I don't go out to it, it comes to me, the awareness of what programs don't serve me, what timelines I've moved throughout that are not efficient. I'm able to define myself even more precisely. So taking another breath in from the core of the earth, really absorbing these frequencies that by their very nature pulls us into the present moment, brings us in more alignment with our timeless self. So noticing the left side of your brain, that side of the brain, all about systems, logic, processes. Noticing the right side of the brain, that creative side, expansive. And then let's bring the two together to our central hub, right in the middle, where the two meet, fuse together so perfectly. Let's just stay here. This is a quieter place for you to be. It's a place that you can receive more clarity. And as we're here, we can ask our timeless self to show us what different timelines that I exist in, that I move from one to the other. And to let me be aware of which ones I can start to disconnect from. Or I'm coming back to my origin. I'm coming back, sinking in with the timeline of origin, nature's timeline, the universe's timeline, planetary's timeline. It's far more precise than anything that I could venture. And as you start to receive awareness, knowledge on timelines, it also releases you from judgment. Your judgment is based on trying to decipher if this is true or false, if this is good or bad, if this is right or wrong. But as you start to understand and become more aware, that is what we create is based on the reality that we are activating. It's all real. Your truth is what you've created. My truth is what I have created. And just because our truths differ, we're in different timelines, we're in different realities, it doesn't make it not valid. Another breath in. This is a big liberation for us. All the great masters speak of the same, of non-judgment being neutral, no attachment. Well, that can't happen if we are deciphering if something is good or bad, right or wrong, true or false. So as we take a breath in, and as we disconnect from these programs of judgment, not to say we're not discerning, but discerning. Is very different than judgment. And as we release these programs, and we come into a more precise moment of time, here and now, in sync with the timeline of origin. We start to even come in deeper into our body and into the present moment. Judgment throws us into many different realities, many different dimensions within those realities, different timelines. So if we start to disconnect from that, we can then start to put our energies into creating the self from that reference of the brilliant being we are. And we could just put aside that hyperactivity of the mind, always analyzing in that survival mode. And we can find that there's really no need to fix, improve, or heal ourselves. We are this brilliant being. We can start to put our energies in finding that wormhole that will take us to that timeline where that much higher version of us exists. So taking another deep breath in. And giving yourself permission, and many of you have one eyebrow raised up, it's very difficult for the mind to understand this, so be patient with yourself. It will come more potent from within than what I'm saying. But for giving ourselves permission, using the examples that I gave of the Mandela Effect, to give yourself permission to understand the reality we create here is not as real as we think it is. That in fact we have far more power to render ourselves however we wish. So coming down to our tailbone, and then again to that central hub in the brain, noticing the two, noticing the proximity between the 2 points. I think without question everyone can agree that time is speeding up. Events are speeding up. Telecommunications are speeding up. Information is expressed in real time now, internationally, all around the world. But what if we could take back control on the speed of time here? What if we could slow down time so you don't age so quickly? What if you could speed up time so you could heal whatever physical element you have. When we start to put our attention into these technologies, outer events that happen in the world, they don't need to affect us like does the mass consciousness. Because if you like, we have a bird's eye view. We don't get into the personality of it all. We get into the mechanics. And we can see, regardless of what's happening in the outside environment, how we can use that to bring even more precision to how we define ourselves, and to see all the possibilities that these new paradigms are opening up for us. It's that saying, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. So regardless of what your perspective is of this new president of the United States, is this something that you wish to spend your time debating on the reality, the timelines? That they're right or wrong, or better or worse? Or, as we breathe in, do we want to be in control of our outer environment and know that whatever is going on out in the world today, if you like, we have the best seats. We have the clearest vision. We're able to see. And as a result, we're able to create the best out of any situation. So breathing in again. And let's just, as we sit here in silence, let's bring in awareness for you. So you start to observe your own timelines. And then you start to also observe other people's timelines. Especially if you're an empath. It lets you observe other people's realities without going in them yourself, taking on their burdens, destroying yourself. We're able to stay in our light. And observe. So we can choose. Do we wish to spend the next 4 years in constant mental conflict, constantly looking at the flaws, which the mind does so efficiently? Or do we want to open up create ourselves from the same reality, timeline, as source? So we see all the possibilities always on offer, regardless of whatever event is going on in this physical reality, which is less than 1% of who we truly are. So taking another deep breath in, absorbing these frequencies from the core of the earth that bring us into that alignment, centering ourselves in that central hub where we can listen, where we receive that awareness that's being installed for us of all the various places we are except for here, right now, and start disconnecting, simplifying, becoming back to our origin. As you listen to the sounds around you right now, noticing where those sounds are coming from, and then where are you in your body? Smells in the air, where are they coming from? Where are you? The taste in your mouth, that inner spatial referencing, releases the chemicals so you have optimal health if your healing switch is turned on. Noticing what's touching you right now, what's supporting you. Are you walking on the floor? Are you sitting? Are you lying down? Just noticing what's supporting you and then where you are in your body. And then opening your eyes and looking at an object. Noticing that object. That object has no memory of you, no experience of you. It's completely neutral. Noticing that object, then noticing where you are. These are using our 5 physical senses to come back here, referred to as spatial referencing. And then let's just use a non-physical sense. So you start to understand reality referencing. So imagining yourself right here, use that inner eye, noticing you in your body right now, noticing the environment around you right now, noticing your reality you are in right now in this present moment. And then think when you heard the news, and we're just using the president election right now just because it's current, but it's not to mention that it's more significant than other events, but let's just use that. Recalling when you heard the news, who won the election, and what reality you went into, a timeline, did you shift into on that news? Just recall how you felt, what you perceived, in as much detail as you can. And then come back here to this reality present right now in synchronicity with your timeless self. And notice the 2 different realities that you have created. With that, I'll leave you here, and I'll see you all next week.